So we've lived in Puerto Vallarta for 10 weeks now, and we want to share everything that we've learned about the area with you guys. If you're like us, we had no idea about this area when we first got here. So we were watching YouTube videos and reading different blogs and stuff like that to figure it out, but nothing was really clear. So the purpose of this video today is to try to explain Puerto Vallarta and tell you guys everything that we wish we would have known before coming here.
So if you're coming here just on a short vacation or you're coming here for an extended stay, you're going to find value in this video. We are going to give some background and facts of Puerto Vallarta and then also the zones that it's broken up into and which ones you should stay at or why.
Yeah, and we've also stayed within our 10 weeks. We've bounced all around the area, so we've stayed in most of the places that we're going to talk about. The next things we're going to talk about in this video, places to go visit and different attractions that we've done, local culture, and travel tips, which is really where a lot of the helpful things are going to be in addition to all the different zones. And the very last thing that we want to talk about is the medical, because that's one of the big reasons why we came here is for dental and some other medical stuff that we'll talk about, and we'll share our experience with that. So to go ahead and kick off this video, we wanted to talk about some of the background facts and some of the history of Puerto Vallarta, because while you're here, if you know some of these things, it will make it much more of an enjoyable, immersive experience. You have an understanding of why things are the way that they are.
So Puerto Vallarta is on the Pacific coast of Mexico in the state called Jalisco.
And also, I didn't even know there were states in Mexico. I thought it was just Mexico. So that was new to me. Maybe it is for you too. So the city also lies on, if we're laughing because this is like the 5th time we said it, Bahia de Banderas. I might be saying that totally wrong. It's the big bay that's out there. One of the largest and deepest in the whole world, which is why it also attracts whales, which we'll talk about later in the episode on where to get whale watching and what time of the year to do it. It's really cool. One of the most visually stunning parts about Puerto Vallarta is that you're surrounded by mountains on the background with the ocean in the foreground, and it makes a really cool atmosphere. The name of the mountains are up on the screen. We're practicing Spanish, and we've learned some tips on what to say, which we'll talk about later in the video too, so you know what to say when you're here, and it makes it easier. But for the more complicated things, they're just going to be on screen. And with the landscape, there's lots of jungles, obviously tons of beaches, and even some waterfalls if you go to the right spots that we'll tell you about later as well. So the dry season here, which is really the time most people come because the weather's great, is from November to May. And the whale watching out in the bay is from December to March. So if you're coming here to really see whales, that's going to be the time you want to come. And if you come during the winter months and also the early spring, the weather is incredible. It's like perfect outside. You can do everything you want to do without being overheated. The town gained prominence in the early 20th century as a bustling port and an agricultural center. And in the 1950s, tourism started to happen here in Puerto Vallarta, but that wasn't the name of it. The original name of Puerto Vallarta was Las Pentas de Santa Maria de Guadalupe. And when tourism started happening, I'm not sure why, but they changed it to Puerto Vallarta. And in 1964, The Night of the Iguana was released and filmed here in Puerto Vallarta, which got this area international attention and kind of showcased Mexico and Puerto Vallarta to people all around the world, so they started to come. So now, if you're not a history junkie or you like facts like Eric and I do, now we're just going to go and jump into the different zones here in Puerto Vallarta, which will be really helpful when you're trying to figure out your stay or just things to do. We're going to talk about the hotel zone first. So the hotel zone is one of the newer areas in Puerto Vallarta. A lot of people go there because obviously there's a lot of hotels. And with that being the newer area, the construction's booming out there, and there's tons of brand new malls, shopping centers. There's a lot to do. Not so much our vibe because it's a little too touristy, but if that's where you're going to stay, you'll enjoy it. The only thing that it really lacks is visual culture. A lot of it's very kind of Americanized, if you want to put it in that way. We did stay in that area, but we were about 2 miles inland, which was a really cool experience as well.
When we stayed inland from the hotel zone, honestly, I don't think I saw another tourist unless it was randomly on a bus or something like that. Because we were so far inland, it's not anywhere somebody goes with purpose unless you're actually staying there.
And with that being said, there's a lot of really great restaurants if you're staying inland, like near the Costco and the Walmart is around where we stayed. And you can walk around. It's very city vibe.
Yeah.
And down in the romantic zone, you see a lot of visual culture. Up there, you just see a lot of buildings and locals living, but there is a lot of local culture in the people there. So it used to be Nuevo Vallarta, which is what a lot of people actually look up, but they renamed it to Nuevo Nayrit because
Nayrit.
Nayrit, dang it,
So it's just north of the airport if you're looking at the map.
which is actually another state. So we got to spend a fair amount of time in that area as well.
So in Nuevo Nayrit is Paradise Village, a really, really popular hotel and area. There's a massive mall with everything you can think of, which is really nice and convenient for maybe big families who want to feel more protected. But I will warn you, the only locals you'll see is probably the people working behind the desk or your taxi driver that got you there. Otherwise, it's very tourist dense.
And also, we went and hung out in those areas, and we were most of the time the youngest people there. So that's a little tip for you. So our daughter needs crackers, so Erica got up to go give her a snack. You can go out and do a lot of whale watching in Nuevo Nayrit as well because it's a little bit more north, and all the whales are kind of on the north side of the bay. That's where most of them kind of hang out. So if you get it there, it's going to be, for one, a little less expensive, and two, you're not going to have to ride on the boat as long to actually go see the whales. Another thing Nuevo Nayrit is known for is the incredibly long beaches there. Nuevo is just long beaches that you can walk for miles and miles and miles and never run into anything else other than more sand. Our favorite, hands down, part about that area is a local neighborhood that's kind of right outside all of that touristy stuff called, I'm going to say it wrong, but I'm going to put it on the screen, Jahartes. If you know what it is, please comment how you say it below. But this neighborhood, we could have lived there. We could have moved to this neighborhood. It's so awesome. This was very local, felt definitely like Mexico. Chickens walking in the streets, horses tied up to people's houses, and all kinds of crazy things. Cowboys. I mean, this was a really cool area, and some of the best food, well, actually not some of the best food, the best food we have had in this whole entire area was in that little tiny town. Some of our favorite parts about it was that the locals were incredibly nice and happy to see us. They were like excited and always wanting us to try new things, and we ate so much food there. There's a restaurant called Titi's, and even if you're staying in like the Paradise Village area, I would strongly suggest going to Restaurant de Titi's. And if you ask a taxi driver, they'll know exactly where it is. And it is a phenomenal seafood restaurant, and the prices are incredible. I had to pull my phone out here to look up our friend Carlos's restaurant, but it is called Tacos Chava, and it's also in that neighborhood. This was our favorite taco stand by far.
Cinco de Diciembre. We like this area, do we?
Yeah. Well, so the funny thing about Cinco de Diciembre, which is the 5th of December, it kind of goes like this. If you're looking at the whole Malecon, older area, Puerto Vallarta, it goes Cinco de Diciembre, Centro, and then Romantic Zone all the way south. But they're all very close to each other. So no matter where you're staying in either of these three areas that we're about to talk about, you can easily walk to any of them, you know, unless you have trouble walking, which will be a safety tip that we actually tell you later.
Yeah.
We've seen so many people fall. But back to this part of the video.
Out of Cinco de Diciembre and Centro, which is what we're about to talk about, we liked Centro better. Let me tell you why.
It's currently where we're staying as well.
That probably helps.
And it's actually, out of all the places we've stayed, we spent the most time in this area because it's very central to everything.
I love to walk, and there are tons of hills, tons of steps. You can't take a wrong turn because everywhere you go is something new to see, or a new restaurant, or a local selling something crazy. So yeah. I love to get lost in Centro.
If you've done any research on Puerto Vallarta, you've seen the Malecon. And the Malecon is a long walkway that it goes along the coast. It's beautiful, tons of shops, lots of vendors, and a lot of really cool things to see, good beaches to hang out at. And you'll see a lot of things like stacking rocks, and there's these guys that are up on a pole, but they tie their ankles to these ropes.
Their hips.
I don't know. Yeah, they just do this circle thing. Yeah, it was cool. So our honest thoughts of the Malecon.
Once I saw it, I had seen it. And
yes.
It was good for me.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things for us, at least, that was really cool to walk. We actually do walk it all the time because it's a great place to walk, but that's really the only reason why we really go there. There's tons of great restaurants.
Yeah, let's just be honest. You're going to pay the tourist price for a meal that's probably not as authentic or made with as much love per se. If you just go a couple blocks inland, it's half the price and twice the care, in our opinion. One of our favorite parts about living in Centro was the Mirador view, which is this awesome hike climbing tons of stairs to reach a viewpoint that I believe you could see like all of the bay, all of the zones, all of the high rises from one single spot. It was worth it.
Yeah, you're actually higher than all the high rises, and it was an amazing view. And our 4-year-old daughter did it with no problem. So, I mean, that's her back there. Oh boy, we're crackers, but we're out. Oh no. That's okay. There's tons of little markets around here in Centro that you can just pop in and buy all these little things. So this kind of goes with all of these zones around here, but especially in Centro. There's no real big supermarkets.
I think it's kind of cool.
It is a lot of fun. Yeah, it is a lot of fun.
You go to the fruit stand, get your fruit. You go down to the convenience store and you get, whatever you have to. It's an adventure, and I don't.
It is. Okay, since this is a long Spanish word, and Erica is much better at it than me, she's gonna say this.
I have to roll the R's. Parroquia de Nuestra Señora de Guadalupe Church.
Yes, it's the very nice church that you always see pictures of. That's the full name of it.
So it's really popular. Everybody loves it. If you're into that kind of stuff, you should definitely check it out.
Okay, now the coolest place in our opinion that kind of has a little bit of everything that everybody can enjoy is the romantic zone.
Zona Romantica.
Sí. So some of the things that I noticed about the romantic zone, which were really cool, and also some downsides of it as well, is that there's a lot of visual culture there. And now depending on where you're staying in the romantic zone, that's about all you're going to see. Because a lot of the people and locals there are there now for tourism. Because that's a big tourist area, which is really great. You still get a lot of authentic food and everything like that, but it's not like that hardcore local vibe. It's still cultural. You see a lot of culture. But you don't really experience a ton of culture like we did in that real local neighborhood we stayed in.
For sure.
But it's still beautiful and still our favorite spot, so it's not like a discount thing. So down in the romantic zone as well is tons of restaurants and tons of street vendors. Another really great part about the romantic zone is the Los Muertos beach pier. Yeah, that, if you want to get a good sunset, Shanti likes it.
Shanti loved it. We went there a couple of times.
Yeah, if you want to get a good sunset, going there is really incredible, and also going up to that viewpoint that we just talked about as well. One of the downsides of that kind of beach area is that it is super touristy. So you'll be sitting in one of the restaurants or sitting on the beach, and you'll just have people walking up to you constantly asking if you want to buy their hat or if you want to buy this blanket. So if you're finding value in this video already, before we finish the romantic zone, go ahead and like this video, because we are putting a lot of effort into this to educate you guys the way that we wish that we were educated. And we promise if you do and you like to experience traveling as a family and how we teach our daughter and how we learn through travel and just living life this way, go ahead and subscribe. We travel full time and we love doing it and we love sharing it with you.
Oh, it's my jam.
It's Erica's jam.
So the variety of people and culture you'll see down there is extensive.
It's intense.
And amazing. You can't be out of place there because there is no place. Everybody is just in their zone, and that's where they are, and they're proud of it. And I loved that. I loved it so much.
And so now that we've told you all about the different zones here that we've experienced in Puerto Vallarta, I want to share with you some of the personal things that we did while we were here. But what we did do was very family friendly and still a lot of fun for our child and us as parents. The first thing I want to mention is going to Yelapa. The reason why Yelapa was so cool is because it was an adventure to get there. We first had to take an Uber, get to Boca de Tolmatan, and then get on a boat taxi to Yelapa. And now Yelapa was a very special place. They have the waterfall there. The city itself was very unique. We also have a whole video that we did about Yelapa. You can see it here if you would like to see that as well. But on your way down there, some people say take a bus down there because it's cheaper. I would suggest taking a taxi or an Uber because you can stop at different places. One of those places being the Parque Nacional Marino Los Arcos de Mismaloya, which is a national park. You can actually see it from the beaches of Puerto Vallarta, but you got to drive down there to see it. It's these big rocks that have these arches going through the water. It's really beautiful. And there's also a really nice beach there called La Playa Mismaloya, which is a beautiful beach to sit and relax. And Boca de Talmatan is a awesome, really pretty, quaint city that you can go visit. They have fresh seafood, very inexpensive, and a cool place to go. But most people go there just to get to Yalapa. But if you don't want to go all the way to Yalapa, that is also an amazing town. And also our other place to go visit while you're here is called Punta de Mita. And Punta de Mita is really cool, especially if you like to surf like me. It's a really small town, lots of culture. There is tourism there, but not as much as Puerto Vallarta. So it's definitely more of a local feel. And we just happened to show up on a great time where they're having the once a year festival, which is really cool, and the surfing was a lot of fun as well. We also have a full video about that here as well. So really, our personal favorite thing that we did was just walking around is really the best way to experience Puerto Vallarta. And many of the activities that we had already expressed was a part of the zones that we talked about above. So if you're looking for different things to do, just go back and rewatch those areas of the videos where we talk about those different locations within the zones, which are activities in and of themselves. Now, the next thing, which is really important to know, is transportation. We found out 5 different ways to transport yourself around the city, and I'll tell you our favorite and tell you the pros and cons of each one. So the first one that we used the most was Uber. Now, Uber is here, and I would suggest if you're coming to have Uber set up before you get here, because it is much cheaper than using the taxis and it's a lot more convenient. Now, the next thing is using a taxi, and there's pros and cons to both. Some places, it was actually really hard. We had to wait a long time to get an Uber, but taxis are pretty much always there all the time. The third way to get around is the bus, which is the cheapest. Well, not the cheapest, but cheap, very cheap, like 10 pesos every time you get on the bus, which is less than $1, like 50 cents or so US. And the advantage there is that it is very inexpensive and you can go a far way with just that little bit of money. But there's an educational learning curve. You have to figure out where the bus stops are. You got to figure out what the signs mean and where they're going, just like any other city. If you're down for that, great. We didn't take the bus too much. We found that Ubering, and then our last favorite way to get around, walking, was the best option. Because with walking, first off, it's free. Second off, you get to experience Puerto Vallarta, and you get to experience the area that you're in. There's nothing like walking around a city where you're just taking your time and just enjoying each aspect of it. And one of the downfalls with walking, which were not really a downfall for us, but could be for you, is that there are a lot of stairs if you're walking anywhere off the Malecon, so expect going up a lot of hills. Now, if you're curious on where we found places to stay and things like that, what we did is we only used Airbnb while we were here. Sure, we could have done hotels and stuff like that, but we enjoyed the local vibe that Airbnb can provide, and plus there's a lot of really affordable, cute places for inexpensive if you're here on a budget, or you can also go very luxurious in an Airbnb as well, or of course an all-inclusive hotel if that's your kind of thing. For us personally, we wanted to learn Spanish, be immersed in the culture, figure out what Puerto Vallarta is all about, so that's what we did. Now I'm going to quickly hit on safety and other precautions that you should take as well while you're here. First off, I want to preface it with this. Many people think that Mexico is dangerous, and it definitely is in certain parts, but let me tell you a story with a local that we had a conversation with. She was telling us how dangerous the United States was. She said, "Mi padre will not let me go to the United States. Es muy peligroso," which means dangerous. And we asked, well, why is that? She said, if you look about the United States, they're shooting people in the schools and they're doing X, Y, and Z. She gave us like 5 different reasons, and we're like, yeah, that happens, but that's very kind of rare, really. So to recap on that last point is it is always worse when you're not here. The news only covers the bad stuff, so don't let that draw you away. We felt incredibly safe here, and to be honest, I felt a lot more safe here walking around everywhere in the city than I do in some other cities in the United States. The only thing that you have to do, just like anywhere, is have common sense and be aware. Look at the people around you. If they look sketchy, then avoid them or walk away. It's that easy. Going out at night here in Puerto Vallarta is very safe as well for mainly this one reason. I mean, of course, things could still happen. But at nighttime here, when many of the tourists and stuff like ourselves are going out to party or do whatever, there's police with their lights on constantly going up and down the streets. And we never had any interactions with the police, so I can't say how they are and this and that. But they are constantly patrolling, which keeps a lot of the bad people away, or at least off the main streets. Now, another thing that might surprise you, because it did us, is that the local neighborhoods, I mean the very local neighborhoods, felt more safe to us than the main Puerto Vallarta area. And the local places were very embracing to us as well. So the next part of the travel tips are currency and etiquette. Here in Mexico, they use pesos, which it's always fluctuating a little bit here and there, but currently the conversion rate is like 18 to $1 US. So something that is 200 pesos seems a lot, but it's really only about $10 to $12. And now there's also a tip when you get here, is that you could also go to the bank before you get here and get all your cash out, but you don't really want to be walking around with that much cash. There's an ATM tip here. First, the biggest tip I can give you is don't use a random ATM while you're here. You want to make sure that you find an actual bank that has an enclosure that you can walk inside of and use the ATM. You put your card in the ATM and you go to withdraw a certain amount of money, and the ATM says, hey, we're going to only give you 16 pesos per $1 US. And they're going to say, do you accept that? You say, nope, deny. And then what the ATM will do is it will allow your bank to decide what the conversion rate will be. And your bank, wherever it is in the United States, Canada, or wherever you're coming from, will give you a much better conversion rate than that ATM. But I also noticed that the ATMs at the banks here, they don't do that. They just give you the straight, clean conversion rate, and those are the best to use. And so now the next thing to talk about is tipping. Do they accept tips in Mexico? Do they not? They do, and they really appreciate it. So the next section we want to talk about is some of we're going to say top 10, but there might be más o menos, more or less, and their best Spanish phrases that helped us get by here in Puerto Vallarta.
I am proud to say I have been to dozens of countries, and I am not proud to say that I don't know any of the languages. But when I was going, I would always do my best to learn polite, kind, like my manners, basically. Please, thank you, you're welcome, excuse me, and toast, like cheers in their language. So here in Mexico, they speak Spanish. And so let's go over those real quick, right? Please is por favor. You can even point at something and say por favor, and they're going to know that you're asking about that, but saying it nicely, please. Thank you, gracias. You're welcome is de nada. It's always nice to be able to respond if they thank you for something. Cheers is salud. So in Spanish, instead of cheers or toast or bros, it's salud.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to some of the words and phrases that are helpful when you're actually out and about trying to do something. The first one I would say I probably said the most, was cuánto cuesta, which means how much. You walk up to a street vendor or you're at a restaurant or anywhere, you look at something, you say cuánto cuesta, and that's just you saying how much. How much does this cost, essentially?
A phrase that I learned in every place because, confession, I pee a lot. I don't know why, but if you know me and if you travel with me, I gotta know where the bathroom is. Here, ¿dónde está el baño? And I have said that way more than I think I should, but it's really nice to know because they know exactly what I'm saying and point in the direction.
Another good one to know, especially for when you're eating out of places, which you probably will do pretty often if you're here, is la cuenta, which means the check. You can say la cuenta por favor. So once you get the general manners done, then you can start combining the manners with some of these phrases here.
We travel, we rarely walk with our heads down, and we're often looking in eyes and greeting people. So here, a common phrase would just be buenos dias, which is like a good morning or good day. And then once it hits 12 o'clock, they will correct you as buenas tardes, which is like a good afternoon.
And that goes all the way to when it's dark.
Pretty much bedtime.
Good night is kind of like a hello here, where in the States, it's more of an exiting term. But here you say buenos noches, and that's only at nighttime.
Yeah. But it's nice to be able to greet people and say hi, and if they say to you can say it back with confidence.
Yeah, to add to some more of the basic ones is very simple. Hola, hello, and adios. And if you can remember those ones and what we've talked about, you're in pretty good shape. A bonus tip for you is to learn numbers in Spanish, because a lot of the local people, when you're buying something, they'll tell you how much it costs in Spanish, and you will have no idea, so you just pull out money and hand it to them and hope they're honest. So the very last subject that we want to talk about is the medical that we receive here in Puerto Vallarta. So the medical here has been outstanding. The hospitals are super nice and modern. I mean,
super nice and modern.
Yeah.
My room looked like a hotel room that happened to have bed in it. It was so crazy.
Yeah, so it just, we really strongly recommend it. That was actually the whole reason that we came here in the first place. Because it actually cost us much less to come live here for the 10 weeks that we've been here and to the medical than it would have been just for one or two of the procedures that maybe Erica might have gotten, you know, and or just to see a doctor, and the prescriptions are so much cheaper. And anyway, we could go on and on. I mean, it really is incredible. We got our dental work done here, like $45 for a cleaning, like ridiculous, you know. So
if you're a little bit nervous coming here for any sort of treatment or medical care, please feel free to reach out directly to us. I will personally respond with my experience or any questions. I also have the phone number of the mediator who was my guide here to help me connect with people. So please reach out if you need to. I am all open arms with it.
So to wrap up this video, we really hope that you guys got some value out of it. If you like this video and if you've made it this far, you might as well already like and subscribe, because we do post content every week, and we are also a family who travel full-time, educating ourselves and trying to share those experiences with you. Yeah, and guys, thank you so much for watching our video. And now it's time to say bye.
Ready? Bye.
Bye.